Hi. Okay, this is attempt number 7 this morning. So I'm going to attempt to keep this as brief as possible and to dive right in. This video is going to be helpful for you if you are a manifestor or you are trying to better understand a manifestor loved one. It will require you to have your human design chart, unless you are very, very good at visualizing your chart in your head. Or the chart of the manifestor loved one that you're trying to understand and better support. Now, I had a question come in on a video that I'll pop up here after the live. And the video was, are you here to empower others? And Carolina, a manifestor, asked this question: how could a manifestor, being an initiator, wait for an invitation with these projected channels? With these projected gates, rather, because she has projected gates and not projected channels. But it occurred to me that as I looked at her question and she'd listed out her projected gates, that there are so many manifestors who are maybe they're aware, maybe they're not aware that they have several projected gates and or several projected channels defined in their chart, and they may not know how to work with them. You might not know how to work with that projected energy in your chart as a manifestor, because they feel very different. The manifesting, initiating energy is very, very different to the projected wait for an invitation energy. So I'm going to talk about that. And in order to help you understand how much this applies to you, I'm going to actually run through what projected gates and channels are, so then you can know, again, how much it applies to you. And then I'll answer the question of, like, what do you do if you have a lot of projected gates, especially in high placements? So like pivotal placements like the sun, the earth, the moon, perhaps in Mercury in what you're communicating, and especially if you have projected channels defined. Now, if you can see and hear me, do pop it in the chat, because I love to know and have confirmation that this is working, especially after so many hiccups this morning. But I'm going to dive in and just assume that you can and get started, because otherwise the day will disappear and I still won't have taught you this. So projected, all of that, if you think about the body graph, the human design chart, the picture bit, think of it like an electrical circuit board. It has electricity running through it in a very particular way. Now, a lot of people will talk about the manifested channels, which there's only 3 manifested channels. It's where you have a direct motor center connected through a defined channel to the throat. The short version of this is motor to throat connection. That is the 2145 that runs from the ego or heart center to the throat. And then there are 2 that run from the solar plexus to the throat. So the 2212 and the 3635. Now, you may be a manifestor who has one or more of those channels defined, but there are so many other indirect routes that you can get, either the heart, the solar plexus, or the root. All 3 of those are motors that you could have defined as a manifestor that could get up to the throat in an indirect way, right? So they could go via the spleen, or they could go spleen to the identity center and to the throat, or even just one of those or 2 of those through the identity center or self center up to the throat, right? So they're all going to bypass the sacral, because you're not a generator or a manifesting generator, but that motorized energy is going to get to the throat somehow. Now, projected gates and channels. There are a huge number of, keeping in mind, 2 gates make a channel. So anytime I talk about any of these channels, I'm talking about 2 gates that come together to form a channel. So everything from the head and the throat, the head and the ajna down to the throat, they're all projected. And everything away from anything that doesn't touch the sacral center and anything that is not our 3 manifested channels, everything else is projected. Okay? So it is very common that you can have, we'll give you a very specific example. You might have an ego manifestor who has from the heart center, the 25, thank you, I'm glad you can hear and see me, that's great. You might have this heart center through the identity center and up to the throat. That would make you a manifestor if you didn't have anything defined below that, but both of those are projected channels. So you've got your 5125, and then it could go through one or more of the three channels that connect from the identity center to the throat, right? So that would be one very clear way that can happen. Another way that happens a lot for manifestors is having two or more channels defined that connect the root to the spleen and then the spleen to the throat, because the root is a motor center, right? And that would make you a manifestor with projected energy. Okay, there are way more configurations than I can list out. It would be completely boring for me to list them all out for you. But if you are a manifestor and you have any other channels defined other than those three that I mentioned, the 2145, the 2212, or the 3635, you have projected energy. Now, projected energy, even in a manifestor aura, in a body that you hold as a manifestor, needs to be invited. And how the heck do you manage that? Now, I've spent a long time, many years living with my partner who is a manifestor and has 5 defined channels. Only one of them is a direct motor to throat connection. The other 4 come in through all over the place, and some of them are connected to motors and some of them aren't. But that is the one. He has this 4 lots of this energy that needs to be invited. And I have watched how uncomfortable that can be for him, being in a manifestor aura, but having things he wants to do, but needing to wait for the invitation. So if you are a manifestor who has especially projected channels defined anywhere in the chart, you might have projected channels that don't make it to the throat. You might have projected channels that give you the motor to throat connection. You could have projected gates that sit within that projected circuitry. And whatever you have, what I'm about to say will apply to you. Keep in mind that the more of this projected energy you have, the more this is going to be true for you. The easiest way to think about how to navigate this projected energy as a manifestor is not to think about having to wait for the invitation. I want to say that again. The easiest way to think about this is to not think about it as waiting for an invitation. I want to encourage you to think about a different word instead, which is recognition. Now, if you have studied any of the content that I have taught around projectors, maybe you have a projector loved one, so you have an idea that true invitations come with recognition. So the easiest way to navigate this discomfort, this very uncomfortable situation of the manifestor aura, but having to be invited, is to not try and think about invitations. And I know I'm repeating myself here, which can be frustrating as heck for a manifestor, but I really want you to hear this. Instead of waiting for somebody to invite you to speak, which can be infuriating, instead notice when you have this incredible idea or this incredible insight that you want to share, does the person or people in front of you recognize and value your genius in that area? The thing about projected energy is that it can be so... The way that as a manifestor you're able to really impact people, it's like with the projected energy that you have that same capacity, the same possibility of being a catalyst or being an impactful on someone, but the other person needs to be ready for it and they need to open the door for you. So the easiest way to know if that person is ready for that particular impactful energy that you can bring is they need to show you that they've opened the door. Now, I want to give you some examples. Well, I think about this with my partner. He has so many incredible things that he is bringing forward into the world. And there are things that he is offering that are can create incredible change for people. But I watch when he is acting from his 3536, which is a manifested channel, he can just go and initiate without like needing to do anything. He just does all the things and everything moves out of the way and it all works beautifully. But when I watch him trying to use, for example, his 5125 channel or his 4323 channel particularly, then what I notice is that he really needs to have a receptive audience. So the thing I would encourage you to think about is your audience, whether it's one person or a whole group of people or a whole massive room full of people, is your audience ready to hear that particular flavor of energy from you, that particular lesson? Because if they're not, then you're going to run into as many problems as us as projectors can run into. So it is going to be helpful for you as a manifestor if you learn a little bit about the energy of the projected gates and or projected channels that you have defined in your own individual chart. Because then what you can do is you can start to see which part of me is trying to be expressed. What's the energy that's trying to be expressed through me right now? And is thing where when I do this, I get met with resistance? Or does it can I do it naturally? Can I naturally initiate? And it works really smoothly. I just have to tell people what I'm up to. I have to inform, and it seems to work. Now, you might, depending on your configuration, you might need to think through this a lot. I have a tendency to think through things because I have a defined head and Ajna that wants to think and think all day. But if you consider what makes sense for you, you might be able to just track, okay, when I do this thing, it seems to work really smoothly, but when I try and do this other thing, it's really clunky. Okay, this thing that's really clunky, where is that in my chart? Now, of course, I can help you understand that and decipher it in your own chart if you want. I have put a link to my website and my email list in the video description. So if you know that you would like any of that sort of support from me, you can let me know. But you can go and dig and look for this information on your own to understand each of those projected gates and projected channels on your own can be incredibly, like, life-changingly empowering, because then you can know, oh, I'm ready to tell somebody this thing that could change their life, but before I share this power that is me as a projector, as a manifestor, me imagining that I'm you, I'm just going to check. Do they look ready? Do they look open? Is this a good use of my time? I don't want to waste my time. Like, this is a precious insight. Are they actually ready for me? Because if they're not ready for you, manifestor, it is much wiser to just go and notice where people are receptive and open to your intuitive insight or your creative spark or your wisdom in a particular area. So if you're a manifestor with projected gates or projected channels that are defined, especially if you have a lot of them, especially if those gates are very high up in the chart in those columns of data, it can be life-changing to understand this distinction. You are still, as a manifestor, here to initiate and inform people as you take action. And when we look at the level of type in human design, it is one very surface level entry point. It is one way to start to split 9 billion-ish people into only 5 groups. So of course, you're not like any other manifestor. I've never ever seen 2 manifestor charts the same, although at some point if I see, identical twins born only a few moments, twins born only a few moments apart, their charts are going to be pretty close. But otherwise, every manifestor alive on the planet is different. And the amount of projected energy you have and the kind of projected energy you have is going to be different to, you know, my partner and my brother-in-law and my niece and my running friend across the road and my, do you know what I mean? Like, so understanding some of the depth that makes you different to other manifestors and understanding how to weave in this understanding of when do I, as a manifestor, need a receptive audience before I can be heard, can be life-changing. Now, if you found this video helpful, feel free to share it with other manifestors. You do you, but I want you to know I'm happy for you to share it. There are lots of ways that you can get in contact with me. Again, there are some of those in the video description here. Coaching courses, jumping on my email list. If there is a specific way that you know you would like support from me, you are welcome to tell me. There is a contact page on the website. And I'll put some videos on the final page here for you to continue binging if you like the way I teach. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any further questions about anything that I've asked that was not clear, then let me know. This is the first time I've attempted to teach, that I have taught this specific lesson this way. So if there was anything that wasn't clear, feel free to ask. I'm happy to add more layers of nuance in here.